What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Biblical Hitman. It's me, Steve, and I'm here with Jesse. And joining us tonight is Bennett Tanton. He is the host of the Broadcasting Seeds podcast, and we'll get further more to him here in just a moment. But if you're new or you're returning and you want to support the show, go ahead and smash that subscribe button, like the show, share it with your friends. You could also check us out on audio platforms such as Spreaker, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. While you're there, you can give us a 5-star review if you feel like it. But you could also follow us as well. But Bennett, brother, thanks for coming on, man.
For having me on. I've been listening to you guys for a little while.
Oh wow.
And love the show, man.
No, I appreciate it. Well, I mean, what really makes our show is our great guests. So it's awesome to have you on, man. You have an awesome show yourself. You get into pretty much all the things that we try to talk about.
All the things.
Yeah, but real quick, man, for the folks that don't know you and where your show is, just tell us a little bit about yourself and where they can find all your stuff.
So again, my name is Bennett Tanton. I am a let's just say father, husband, veteran, podcaster. I do a couple other things too, entrepreneur, whatnot. But my show is Broadcasting Seeds. And it just came about a year ago almost. I think we're a year into this, but I've been in the podcasting game for about 11 years. So I've had a couple shows, had a podcast network that was sold and bought. So I've been doing this a while, but technology's wild now, man. We were just talking about that. So things have changed a little bit, but I just couldn't stay away from it. So
yeah, I mean, the editing with all the technology, the AI now, right?
Man, I can tell you that before it was like we did everything with what's it called? Audacity.
Yes.
And
we've used Audacity.
I mean,
and
I
it's
still
like
use
literally,
Audacity.
yeah. I mean, I do too. I still use
Yeah.
it, but and the video deal, there was no video. That wasn't happening. I mean, there was YouTube and whatnot, but we would always post our stuff on YouTube as a, static image with the audio.
Okay.
So,
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But yeah, anyway.
Well, what's your story? I mean, getting into the podcasting game, 11 years is a pretty long time.
Yeah, so I went so back in 2014, I decided, I guess we'll have to back it up just a touch quick. So I got out of the military in 2003. I actually got out twice. One time was I got out of the Marine Corps in 1996. I was out for was in from 92 to 96. Got out in 96. Was a cop for a little while. Did some contract security work. Everything involved carrying a gun. And I did that. Was not built to be a police officer, I can tell you that. So I resigned from that job, got back into security. Then my first marriage fell apart. Did not transition well as a veteran, going from civilian or going from military to civilian. Decided that marriage was ending. So I was like, you know what am I going to do? So I joined the military again, but I joined the Army. So I served in the Army, 10th Mountain Division for 6 years, got out in 2003. And in this process, I met my wife, now my second wife, who I've been with now for 21 years.
Oh,
I probably have that wrong. But, so, I mean, we've been married since 2004. So yeah, 21 years. Wow. That's crazy.
Wow.
So either way, ended up getting out, sold cars for a little. It's just, again, not great. But luckily this time I had a good job lined up when I got out in nuclear security. So I jumped into that, did that for 11 years till I had a literal breakdown. and I just couldn't gear up every day like I was going to war, even though I was in, the States and whatnot. I just couldn't carry a gun for a living anymore.
Yeah.
So I put that down, around I guess that was 2011, and then I kind of went on a journey to heal myself, a mental health journey. And I became at the end of that whole process, I became a peer support specialist, working mainly with veterans. But along that journey, I'd always been interested in entrepreneurship and just doing my own thing. So I didn't have to, you think you don't have anyone to what's the word I'm looking for? Answer to, but you do.
Right.
Either way. But, so I got into this program in 2014 called the Entrepreneurship Boot Camp for Veterans, which is run by the Institute for Veterans and Military Families at Syracuse University.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And so I went through that program and met a bunch of really cool people. Started a veteran nonprofit since, we needed one of those. We needed another one of those, like a hole in the head. But either way, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic about it, but there was like 40,000 of them at that time. I just thought I could do it better.
Yeah.
Turns out I can't. But, whatever. But I still became a peer support specialist and did that work. But that's, either way, I'm just giving you the whole story, man.
Yeah.
So then, I met a couple really cool folks at the EBV is what it's called, Entrepreneurship Bootcamp for Veterans. And we were at what's called at that time, it was the national conference for this program. And they'd bring in, because it had been in existence since 2008. So they had 8, 9, they had like 6 years of graduates from this program. And they all met at NatCon every year. So we had the national convention in Atlanta, and this 2 guys and I were smoking cigars, laying in the Centennial Park, like the Centennial Village, where the Olympics was how many years prior to that, right?
Okay.
That's
And
cool.
they have the huge
Yeah.
fair that's there and everything. So we were literally it was probably like 10, 11 o'clock at night, laying there with cigars. And I said, man, we need to start a podcast. And they're both like, and I didn't know anything.
Wait, what year was this?
2014.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
I said,
Right.
we need to start a podcast, because I had, been listening to Joe Rogan and some other folks.
He was still kind of in his infancy for sure.
Right. But
Right.
I was into it, like
Nice.
early adopter. Right.
Nice.
I'm like, we need to start a podcast talking about, veteran stuff, Marine Corps centric, veteran mental health, blah, 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 whatever. So we laid there and sitting there smoking cigars, and it just popped into our heads, cigars and sea stories. So we started that podcast, and, the rest is history. And in between now and then, I had another podcast called Change Your POV. And we did that for years. Became a POV or a podcast network, and brought some other folks in, and it was just a good experience. And it's just nonsense, most of it, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
There's enough there to get me in trouble if people want to listen.
Yeah.
But the quality was awful at first, and
You got to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere, dude.
Yeah. So that's kind of the whole. This is how I got into the podcast game, and then I decided I haven't done anything podcast wise until 2020, I don't know, 2020, 2021 maybe.
Crunch time.
And then, with the job that I got, my employer was like, so here you're a podcast guy.
Huh.
Can you start a podcast for us? So I did. And then I was like, I'm doing my own again. So that's where Broadcasting Seeds has popped up. And technically I have another one called Whispers of the Wood Ape as well, but that's Bigfoot centric. And I have a co-host with that as well. So yeah, man.
Fun stuff. Well, how did you come up with the name?
Broadcasting Seeds?
Yeah.
Because
when I hear it, I'm not gonna lie. I have to say this, but when I hear it, I feel it's like when I put the fertilizer in the machine and walk it over the lawn.
Correct.
And I promise you, that's what I see.
Yeah. No, and that's kind of the idea, right?
No, it's awesome.
But it was about planting seeds. But I'm like, because this is what I do. I plant seeds in people's minds all the time. I have 4 daughters, and if you don't know what that's like, as a father, trying to get them to do anything the way that they should, I have to do it in a way. It's like Jedi mind tricks. I have to do it in a way that gets them to these are not the droids you were looking for, to make it as though it's their idea for everything that they do. Right.
Love it.
So
that's awesome.
I plant seeds constantly, and I'm, walking around in night.
Right.
And I harvest these seeds from time to time because they've grown. Right.
Beautiful.
So I was just like, well, how do I do this? And then what happened was if you look at my logo, I was like, oh my God, it's like the old school microphones, right? And I was like, Broadcasting Seeds. There you go. And so I just ran with it, and luckily it was available. And nobody else had thought about. Nobody else had come up with the idea prior. So
yeah, you got Bigfoot. You got Bigfoot in there to the left.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
so
that was
a little bit of everything, man.
Yeah,
UFOs,
that was gonna
angels.
Yeah. That was gonna be my next question. I was like, well, what would you say your show is kind of about? You're broadcasting seeds, right? But it's like so much of everything.
It's everything. It's the whole, and I like to call it's a high strangeness podcast. Because it's literally from everything that's conspiracy to, cryptids and everything in between. But I also am a Christian, so I really get into the biblical side of this, because it's all connected, man.
It is, dude.
It is. And everyone can say what they want, and everyone's got opinions, and that's fine. But it's all interconnected and laced together. And so I look at it. It's starting to evolve more to everything is looked at through like a biblical type lens.
Yes. Right.
And it just is what it is.
Right. Wow. So let's go there. Give us your testimony. How did you did you grow up Christian, or how did you find yourself through faith?
So but it wasn't always strong by any means, just like any of us, right? My dad technically, so I'm adopted, but I've never known any other. I knew from when I was real little that I was adopted, but my adopted father was a pastor, reverend, but not practicing. Like he had the theological degree and everything, and he actually had I don't know how he maintained the title reverend, but he did. So I was, and he was a theologian for sure.
Oh, okay.
And he literally, like, I heard of this stuff all the time, and I went to church every Sunday, but it's all the cookie cutter stuff.
Right.
None of this stuff ever piqued me. Like, It wasn't like, it was like, okay, this is just the way it is, and that's fine. But I started, when I really was able to start reading the Bible, I was like, you know what? This is like an action movie, man. Like, why is it not told this way?
Yeah.
And I've thought that for years. It's literally like, it's like Marvel Universe, man, or like, pick it. Lord of the Rings, all these stories. Like, why aren't we telling biblical stories this way? It would change the game.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. But so I've fallen out of favor, in my opinion, with the church. Like I was kind of like, for a while I rejected it. It wasn't even that I rejected religion, I rejected God. And finally, then became a father, and it kind of all shifted back. Like, dude, this isn't about you and your ego and all the stuff. And so for the last, I don't know, 30 years, basically, I've kind of been back in the game, member at a church, gone to church, but then, I just realized that they were not teaching it the way I see it. And I couldn't, I'm going to be honest, a lot of this stuff went sideways with the whole, how do I say it without like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to say it.
Say it.
Like the whole thing, like all this stuff where they're shoving this crap down our throats and our kids' throats, and this is how you should be, and this is, we're kinder, gentler, and you're supposed to be accepting and all these things, and I'm like, this is not how it's supposed to be.
Right.
Because I used to especially go to a Methodist church, and I can't.
So that church that you were going to was like okay with all of that?
Yes, absolutely. And it was like, no,
that's rough.
Negative. Can't do it. So, well, once the senior pastor that they had passed away, it all went haywire.
Wow. Isn't that funny how it's always like that? Like the owner of the company or whatnot. And it's like the guy leaves, and there's so many examples of that. That is crazy to hear.
It's just not the same. But that's the church in general. That
seems that
church.
way.
And it's not just that church. It's the church. That church, the Methodist church in general is very tolerant. And there's nothing wrong with being tolerant, but there's a difference, as we know, right?
Right.
I'm pretty tolerant. And I don't judge people. It's not my job.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. There's a point to where it's like you go from being tolerant to accepting and start almost advertising those kinds of things. And it's like, okay, slow it down. Yeah.
So I am full-fledged on the deliverance ministry side now.
Nice.
And a lot of that came to be because I had, from a young child, realizing now, looking back, hindsight's 2020, that I had issues, and I had doors that were opened, and my soul got fractured as a young kid, period. And I felt lost for years and years and years, even though I was going to church. I just wasn't right, and it's a whole nother story.
Yeah. God always comes
which
in,
we can get into it, but it's
let's get into it.
And I wasn't saying I was possessed, but I was definitely being manipulated by I'll just say the name is Lilith.
Ooh.
Oh. Well, it's not surprising.
No, not at all, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, I've just never really come across anyone that's had that kind of an experience.
Oh yeah, man.
That's insane.
Straight spiritual warfare.
Well, where do we start with that?
Well, I can tell you that a lot of it, I've looked at this through many lenses, right? I was an abused kid. So that Reverend Father, he's passed at this point, so I'll just say it, abused me. So how do you take, as a child, how do you take the word and God seriously from a man of God, right? When you're just being hurt.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
you can't. You lose all
How do you
faith.
reconcile that?
Yeah,
Right.
I talk about that all the time. Sorry to interrupt you, but it's like
Oh, no.
that's one of the biggest parts when I talk to my friends and families, and even myself several years ago. Like you look at the church as a whole, you talk about Christianity, you talk about Jesus, and you go, "Well, dude, that guy was a jerk. This guy stole all the money from his congregation." The list goes on and on. The Catholic Church, and it completely steals the faith from people.
Well, it does. It literally ruins lives, right?
Right.
From the get-go. So, and then, so there was, I can't really look back and say, obviously it was a defining moment. And that trauma opens doors, right? So, I mean, this is like 6, 7, 8 years old, right? So then you move fast forward till I'm 12. And that was like my first sexual experience, consensual, right? But it was still completely inappropriate. I'm 12, and it was with a 17-year-old girl. So regardless, I mean, and I can't think of a world where a 12-year-old can make those decisions, right, in a good way. You just can't. So, again, though, things like that open doors, right? So, and I'm not saying I gave consent, but from that moment forward, I can just think of having nightmares, and literally, whether it was abuse from one form or another, but usually female, right? But it was only in my dreams. It wasn't real. It wasn't, I mean, it was real, but it wasn't physical. Does that make sense?
Right.
Right.
Definitely a recurring dream / nightmare that if you take the entity of Lilith and encapsulate it, it was, a seductive female form, literally kind of similar to the girl in the ring.
Wow.
Wow.
But hotter.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Of course. Seducing.
I think I can see that.
Yeah. Don't want to, but yeah.
Because never really saw a face per se recurring,
Oh, wow.
but this is for years.
Oh, wow. Since
and
you were 12.
Yeah.
Wow.
Up to adulthood.
Wow.
Up till literally, folks, last year.
Wow.
But it all came to a head, and I'll get into that. So, and this is where hindsight's 2020, because you go, geez, man, this has been going on for, 40 years, right? And I've always had this twisted relationship with women. Plus, I was gifted with 4 daughters. There's a lot of correlation between stuff, like lessons that need to be learned and things along those lines, right? Had twisted relationships with women. Like I love women, but I really don't like them.
Well.
But how could I? To an extent,
Yeah.
if you look back at my life, I just don't. I felt domineered by them my whole life.
Ah, yes.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And that's completely accurate. Now, if my aunt or my mother were ever to listen to this, I apologize, but it's true. They know it. I've told them, but completely domineered by women my entire life, even in relationships that I was in. Just unhealthy,
Right.
like ridiculous, unhealthy relationships.
And you know what? I think that's a lot of like how the culture has been for a long time. Majority, but till I met my wife, I've been with my wife almost 11 years now, and she's the most beautiful person ever, and I'm so thankful. But every other girlfriend, it was the same story. It's just that's the culture that we live in.
Absolutely. And I still, like, our relationship is great, but it's still not right. I mean, there's issues. And not
Mhm.
like I'm divorcing you issues, but what's perfect, right?
Right? Nothing.
So with that being said, this all kind of came to a head. It's the first time I'm telling the story on air, I think, too.
Awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
Maybe.
Love it.
I mean, I've said it, but this is like the full story, right?
Let's go.
So, I mean, just so people know who Lilith is, in like Jewish folklore, she's, because there's a couple origin stories, right? And one of them is in Jewish folklore is that she was Adam's first wife and was created from the same dust that he was, not a rib like Eve, right? But she basically refused to submit to Adam. This is all, alleged, because we don't hear this in the Bible at all, right? So, and asserting her equality, and I love the word equality, she eventually left the Garden of Eden, right? So that's one story. But over time, she became associated with like night demons, seduction, untamed feminine power, right? Sound familiar, guys? That refuses to be controlled. Sounds pretty feminist to me.
Right.
Yeah,
I wonder
right.
if there's a connection with the Jezebel spirit and Lilith.
No,
doubt.
I don't think there is.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
and the reason I say that is they're different. They're
Mm.
just different. Like they seem like they're related,
Mm-hmm.
but that's where that ends.
Interesting.
Right.
Because they also target different like classes of people, also different things. They
Right.
target different. There's different doors.
I can see
They
that.
walk through different doors.
I feel
is
like
what I'm-
Yeah.
when you look at the Jezebel spirit will target women, and then the Lilith spirit will target men. I think that's like a good. But
yeah, I mean Jezebel does men as well, but it's more
Okay.
of a power thing. Whereas in like here, let me pull something up.
Very interesting.
Lilith is they're again they rhyme maybe, but they're not anywhere near the same.
Yeah. It seems like Lilith and the nature of Lilith is more of like a godhood rather than a some sort of spirit influence.
Yeah. I
You know what I'm
think
saying?
Lilith personally,
Because of the Mesopotamian history. and
yes,
all
it's a
that
principality type of energy.
ancient- Mhm.
Frankly,
Mhm.
with
Exactly.
Lilith.
Right.
Like I think, I mean, she might have dominion over certain parts, especially like Appalachia, dude.
Oh wow.
Watch if you guys have not ever watched the people, my audience is probably sick of me talking about it, but the Dark Holler series, if you've never watched it, I just had the director on my show.
Dark Holler. How do you spell holler?
HOLLER.
Okay. Forgive my ignorance. Like Sam Sam
Someone
Tripoli.
please comment. Someone
Yeah.
please drop a
Sam
comment.
Tripoli always says he's like, I dropped out of first grade. Forgive me.
Right,
That's the same for me.
absolutely. But and for some reason, because my brain doesn't work correctly a lot of times, I can't remember the director's name. But I'll tell you in 1 second. So it is Ward Hiney. So WARDHINEY. He is also the director of a bunch of Tony Merkel's films.
Oh wow.
I wouldn't say he's the director, but he runs a camera.
Who is it?
Ward Hiney?
Okay.
Hiney? I can't
Gotcha.
remember how you say his name. But he was like the Shape of Shadows. If you guys watch those documentaries that Tony Merkel made,
I've watched a couple of them.
Off his website,
Yeah.
right? Or
so
something like
Ward
that.
is one of the
Gotcha.
guys that films those. but he did this docu-series called Dark Holler. Where was I going with that? Oh, because there's a lot of Lilith influence in that movie, or that, and it just opens it up, man. It's hardcore. It's fantastic. But yeah, so then Lilith also appears in the Mesopotamia mythology as a type of like night demon type thing,
Right.
and her influence stretches into modern interpretations where she sometimes is seen as a symbol of feminine autonomy and rebellion against patriarchal structures, right?
Oh wow, that's very interesting you say that, man, because I'm reading here, at least on Wikipedia, that there are connections between Lilith and the Mesopotamian demon Lamashtu.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
what was it? A few months ago on the SNL
Yeah.
show, they actually did some sort of ritual in an act form. Of
Well, that was
course.
wasn't that the Lady Gaga thing?
It was Lady Gaga, yeah, and they were
Yeah, isn't
summoning.
that funny?
Yeah,
It's weird.
they were summoning Lamashtu, but when you were just talking about, more deeper stuff about Lilith, I'm like, well, that makes what's happening. That it makes me keep my eyes
Yeah,
open for the next few months.
right. So
For something.
rebellion against patriarchal structures, right? So
Yeah.
one of her key symbols, and this is important, is the owl. A nocturnal creature representing wisdom, mystery, and connection to darker forces of nature.
Wow.
Okay.
And that's Moloch, right?
Well, partially, right? He's also an owl. I mean, well, it's Bohemian Grove, right?
Right.
Aren't you guys going to Bohemian Grove?
Yes. Yeah. Well, as far as I know, I got to follow up with them just to
Right,
make
gotcha.
sure. But
Well, I think they announced that you were going to be there. So either way.
oh, okay. Oh,
Oh,
awesome,
nice.
awesome.
Maybe
Cool.
something like
Well,
that.
I mean,
Or maybe I was
I'm
hearing
committed.
things. But
I'm committed, but I hope we're in there.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
wanted to go, but I'm all the way in Vegas, and that's my wife's birthday weekend, and we couldn't find it. We
Oh,
couldn't
man.
find a
Yeah.
babysitter either.
But
so.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the where they're doing it in Leesburg is 30 minutes from me.
Oh,
So
wow,
that's
is it?
awesome.
yeah,
Oh,
it's not far at all,
dang.
man.
Yeah,
So,
I've been looking at once I retire here shortly. I say
Yeah.
retire loosely, but we might move to Florida. We're definitely coming down south because I live in upstate New York and it's freaking
nice.
cool, bro.
Well,
wow.
Jesse's originally from Geneva. Pretty sure.
Really?
If you're
Yeah,
familiar
I was born
with
in
the Finger
Geneva.
Lakes, yeah.
Yeah, I was born in Geneva.
I drive through there a decent amount.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
What parts are you in?
I actually live in Liverpool,
Oh,
which
okay.
is right outside Syracuse.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, you brought up
Nice.
Syracuse earlier. I was like, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I grew up in Geneva. Well, I lived there till I was 10, and then we moved to SUNY Oswego area,
okay.
a little town called Hannibal.
I know Hannibal.
Yeah.
I buy eggs in Hannibal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
right there.
Syracuse. Yeah, Syracuse. I went to their hospital. Yeah, I was in their hospital for a little bit.
I
Which
think
one?
no, you were.
There's three
that
of
was
them there.
That was
it?
Rochester.
Oh, it was Rochester.
It was Rochester.
Oh,
Yeah, neurolog. They have a better neurological.
Mistaken. I'm not from the area. So.
Yeah, look at the scar on
Yeah.
his forehead. He ran
Right
into
here.
a pole.
Yeah.
Nice.
They almost had to airlift me out of there.
Geneva's great, man. Well, we go to like Bellhurst Castle and stuff.
Yes,
we'll go there once in a while.
creepy
Yeah,
Bellhurst Castle, dude.
Oh wow.
Anyway,
I got a funny story about that. We flew in. My dad's from Waterloo,
okay.
right?
Yep.
My mom is raised, and so is Stevie's mom, raised in Geneva. And we flew in for one Christmas, and we went to stay at the Bellhurst Castle. We get there. There's some gothic girl in the front with like she's wearing all black eyeliner, all the whole gamut. And we're looking around, and it's just dead. And then she brings us to our room, and there's cobwebs in the corner. There's a old Roman tub in the middle of the room.
Yeah.
It was a very odd. I sat down, and I'm like, this is crazy. And my dad immediately stood up and we left, and we went across the street to an old monastery that is now doing like condo rentals or condo whatever. And that was creepy too, but it's beautiful. It was snowing, and there's like these old monastery statues by the lake.
Man.
It's right on the lake too. That was hilarious. Yeah, the Bellhurst Castle is creepy, dude.
It is creepy. It is for sure.
All right, back to Lilith. I
All
don't
right.
think we're
So,
finished with that bad boy.
owls, again, there's other symbols and stuff like you'll see them. They're actually all over the place. Like the phased moons and stuff, that a lot of that stuff, like has to do with a lot of symbols of Lilith. Because again, these symbols work their way into modern day culture, right? They just do. And you just don't know what you're like allowing into your home, things like that. So I just say people, if you've got some of these same issues, you might want to look at some of the stuff that's in your house and some of the doors that you might have opened throughout your life. But so the owl thing. So where I live is it's suburbia. It's in a suburb, but
Right.
we're lucky enough to have a couple acres of land behind us that is like all trees. So we don't have a neighbor right on top of us and behind our house, right? So that's cool. I love our backyard. Everything's great, but it's a little wild back there.
Right. Yeah.
Like I've seen deer, I've seen coyotes, yada yada yada, right? Turkeys, all the stuff. But
5
we're
a.m. You'll have the
literally,
turkeys coming out,
yeah,
looking like aliens coming out of the bush.
Oh my God, they're creepy little things.
They are.
They're delicious though. They taste delicious. But either way, one night I was literally sitting on my couch editing a Broadcasting Seeds episode. But I had YouTube on in the background, just like filling the noise because it was later, and my kids had gone, and you got to fit these things in when you can, and it's not, my kids are older, but they still just run their mouths. So, so I was doing this, but I had YouTube on in the background. So I fell asleep on the couch, and as that happens sometimes. And when I woke up, I remember looking at my phone. It was exactly midnight. And you know how YouTube will just keep going. It'll play it. And there was an episode of the Confessionals on. Now, I can't tell you what I fell asleep to. I don't know. But it could have been anything. It could have been any of it because my YouTube is just full of our shows, the stuff like us.
Right.
So, the episode though was the Confessionals. It was episode 657, which is Lilith Comes a Calling.
Oh, wow.
Talk about unsettling timing, right?
Wow.
Well, I'm shaking off the fog of sleep basically, and got up to get some water, and I'm gonna just lock up and head to bed. And I passed by our back door, which goes out onto our deck, and our kitchen sink overlooks the back as well. But right as I walked by, I heard an owl hooting in the yard.
Oh man!
And I had never heard an owl. And
they're uncommon.
5 years, right?
Yeah.
Never had I heard an owl. Well, I had just watched Dark Holler. I had done all this stuff, and I was really getting into this for about, this was in September of 2024. But since June, I had really started getting into this whole spiritual warfare thing, right? And really started ramping it up, like trying to figure out what's up with me and figure out what, literally blessing the home, all the things, right? Because I also started really hardcore cryptid hunting at that time too. So I was opening all kinds of doors and shaking everything to get the dust off of it, right? So I hear this owl start hooting. And it might not sound like a big deal to most people, but I'd lived there for a while and never heard one. But with that, something deep inside me reacted, and it reacted like viscerally. And I opened up the door, went outside, and started rebuking
Oh,
the
wow.
owl in the name of Jesus.
Amen.
Like just out of nowhere, like for no reason. I don't know if I've ever done that in my entire life,
Wow.
but something in me like took over as whatever it was out there, in the name of God, Jesus, the whole thing.
Yeah, you just felt the negative
Because I knew
energy.
it wasn't just wildlife. I just knew it.
Right.
And I could feel. So, all right. So I've got to pause and go back a little bit, because when I was in the Marine Corps, I had an incident where I drowned.
Oh, wow.
And I wouldn't say it was a near-death experience. I've drowned a few times. But this
Jeez.
incident, yes, I was in reconnaissance in the Marine Corps, and, I was a combat diver, and
It's
Oh,
hardcore.
wow.
it was nonsense. Lots of water involved, right? But I drowned. And I don't remember anything. But I do remember when I woke up. Ever since then, I can remember now that I've seen, and now I know what I'm seeing, and I know how to do things with it. But I could see auras ever since then.
Oh, wow.
And I also have the ability to know when something is off, meaning like I can walk into a house and tell you if it's haunted or not. That kind of thing. I don't see dead people. I don't see, it's nothing like that, but I see people's auras. And I can really feel when things are around.
Wow.
Comes in handy when I'm cryptid hunting as well. But so with that being said, I have this innate kind of ability now where I just know when something's not good or when it is, right? And this was not good. As soon as I started rebuking it, I could feel it retreat further from like, because it was like right on the property edge. I couldn't see anything, but it was, as I spoke, it started retreating backwards, and then it let out this god awful scream. But it wasn't like an owl. It was like a wounded animal. It was awful. It was, and when I think about it, I get chills. It's just awful.
Wow.
And I'm not going to lie, man, I was scared.
Yeah.
I went back inside, I locked up, said about 3 billion prayers of protection. I mean, I have holy water and anointing oil, and that was getting,
Oh, man.
slung all over the joint. Because it was,
Wow.
The instructions say swing gently. He's like,
just like, it's like, I just popped in my head, but no, I don't know what I'm gonna say. It's like a Diddy party or something.
Oh, my
Oil,
goodness.
man, you know what I'm saying? Like oil
It's
everywhere.
everywhere.
But I'll say it, whatever.
oh, it's awesome.
That's hilarious.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was just dripping, because Tony Merkel's on his show before.
That's
too.
hilarious.
He's like, oil was, and it literally was. I was just everywhere. So then I finally was able to go to bed, and the rest of the night was basically uneventful. Woke up in the morning. But that sense of unease really sat with me. So I went outside, because that day earlier I have a smoker, and I don't remember what I was smoking, but it was some sort of meat.
It was a turkey.
Maybe. But I was going outside to put the cover on, right? On the smoker, it was like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And I wanted to listen to the rest of that confessionals episode because this is like, holy crap, this is what is happening right now. So it was the guy that was on. I think I think his name is Justin. It's either Justin or Jason from the Artificial Intelligence, or is it Appalachian Intelligence podcast, which still lives. I just think they don't do it anymore.
Oh, wow.
I think they got real jobs and decided not to do it, but I'm not positive. But I was listening to the rest of this episode outside with the on my cell phone, and I had it playing on speaker so I could just get the work done. Well, as we know, owls are nocturnal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, all of a sudden I hear this. I've been outside maybe 5 minutes. I hear this freaking owl start hooting again.
Oh my goodness.
Don't do it. You did it.
Yeah, man. Like chills, like right down my body. And I was like, coincidence? I don't think so. So I screamed into the woods again and blah, 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 it went away. Just insane. So, everything was fine for a few days. Just didn't have any other stuff go down. But a few nights later, things escalated, I guess is what you could say.
Wow.
And I had a nightmare where Lilith straight up abused me in this
Whoa.
dream. Like came in a sexual manner and just domineering, like awful, right? But it wasn't, remember I told you earlier, it was kind of like a seductress type thing. This was like old hag.
Abuse.
Like Lilith. Not,
Ugh.
I'm going to look hot and then abuse you. I'm going to look like a, crone.
Ugh.
Jeez.
And
oh goodness. Dude.
So in that dream, I knew this wasn't just some random figure at that point. I knew it was Lilith. Like that's it. Like my mind was set, right? Heavily tied to her, at least at minimum. So I woke up in a panic. And of all times, it was at 3 exactly. Now, I'm a fourth watch waker. I don't know if you guys know what I mean when I say that.
No, do explain.
So I wake up pretty much every single night between 3 and 5 a.m., which is between 3 and 6 is what is called the fourth watch.
Gotcha.
And it's when the veil is basically it's at its thinnest.
Right.
And, a lot of people can get manipulated good ways or bad ways, right? During that time period. So whenever I wake up, I always pray now, and I basically get up for the day at that point. But I woke up in a panic at exactly 3:49. Okay. And that specific time stuck with me, and I just couldn't shake it off. After getting up, though, to use the bathroom, I tried to go back to sleep, but I just was overwhelmed with this sense of dread, right? And it was as if the energy from the dream followed me into life, like waking life.
Oh, that's not good. It crossed over.
Yeah, it was not good. So I pulled out my phone and started reading a prayer of protection, trying to shake off the feeling. And as I recited the prayer, I remember distinctly getting chills all over my body. And I was laying next to my wife in bed. But when that happened, my wife woke up, reached over to check if I was okay, which grounded me quite a bit, right? Because I was kind of freaking out. But I still couldn't shake that feeling. So I went downstairs to make coffee and like clear my head, get the day rolling. And as soon as I got to the kitchen sink, guess what I hear? Freaking owl. owl hooting right in my yard, and I actually smiled at that point, and I said, "There she is." I literally said that out loud. Out loud. There she is.
Wow.
Um, and at that point, I was angry, and it felt like like an old foe showing up again, right? Like, why can't I shake this, right? But this time I knew I was ready, and I basically picked up my phone. I had actually written a prayer, the day prior, that was very Lilith specific.
Oh.
And I can give that prayer to you guys at some point. Send it to you, and you guys can see it, use it, share it, whatever, you know. But I started reading it aloud, and renouncing Lilith, and I moved towards the back door, raised my voice. I was literally, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm out on my back deck reciting scripture, or, you know, saying this prayer. It was like, it's out of a movie, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a bad movie, but a movie nonetheless. And that's when this owl just went nuts. It went nuts.
Oh, wow.
It screaming, hooting louder and faster. And again, I could feel whatever it was retreating, and eventually it was gone. And by the end of it, I was exhausted. But I really felt lighter. Like I had won a battle, you know, literally. But yeah, so the significance though of 349, something about it just nagged me, and I felt compelled to look it up. So I was drawn to looking up Genesis 3, 4 through 9.
Interesting.
Which reads, "You will not certainly die," the serpent said to the woman, "for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." When the woman saw that the fruit on the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. Then the man and woman heard the sound of the Lord God as he was walking into the garden in the cool day, and they hid from the Lord among the trees of the garden. But the Lord God called to the man, "Where are you?" So that's Genesis 3, 4 through 9. And it just makes complete sense, right? It's like the original sin, or the, right?
Right.
Yeah, we talk about this a lot, the serpent seed theory.
I mean, it's
that
all
comes
about
to mind.
Temptation, knowledge, consequences of stepping outside divine protection, all that stuff. So the certain serpent's promise to Eve that eating the forbidden fruit would open her eyes echoes Lilith's themes of rebellion and the pursuit of forbidden knowledge. Just like Eve, my eyes were opened, but to what? To a dark energy that she haunted humanity for centuries. So, yeah. Yeah, man.
Interesting. I wanted to share something because
Yeah.
we're talking about the owl, and you know, I'm up here in the Central Florida area. You know, Orlando's in our backyard. We go to Disney World. You know, I take my family and everything. And I gotta show you guys this. But this is at sorry, I'm looking at my screen here. So this is at Animal Kingdom.
Yeah.
And this is on the tree.
I remember this. You
in
showed
the
me this.
in the middle of Animal Kingdom, and the owl is the biggest.
Yeah.
What seems to be like this king of the hill kind of action here. There's all different kinds of animals in here. There's a bear right here, but it's on top of
Is
everything
that
else.
no? Is that owl like? Is it a normal size owl? Is that a pretty big owl?
No, that's probably like 15 feet like tall.
The
Yeah.
That
owl
owl.
is?
The owl's probably 15 feet tall. Yeah, it's a huge
Holy.
tree. The tree itself is probably like 120 feet tall.
Yeah, I remember seeing that
Yeah, it's
at Animal
huge.
Kingdom. At that time, I never put it together, but yeah, man.
I found that interesting because it's kind of, you see that symbolism in other places, you know, throughout
Yeah.
Oh
the
yeah.
world,
So-
country, especially in this country.
But since then, I've like done all kinds of work to like, and I'm convinced that my soul was fragmented. And if you've never like listened to, there's a gentleman named David Duvall. He's been on Merkel's show a few times. He's been on a bunch of different podcasts, but he talks about reclaiming pieces of your fractured soul. And I've done this. I've done the work with this, and I tell you, it's 100% real. Yeah, I've got a whole
Wow.
thing that I did that is specific to Lilith because, you know, I look at it as her as one entity that if anyone had a piece of my soul, it was her. So
That's
not anymore.
That's a trip, man.
That
Yeah,
is a
it's-
trip.
That's a trip. Man.
It's wild for sure, you know, and
Yeah.
believe what you will, but that's my
Is there a connection with Lilith and, you know, the Genesis 6 story and or anything like that? I know kind of like the origins, you talked about it where it kind of is
Yeah.
in the garden.
and it doesn't seem to be.
Right.
It
Right.
doesn't.
I'm
seem
wondering if
to.
there's some sort of connection with her and maybe this possible ritual that took place on top of Mount Hermon or
Mm.
whatever, you know, because when I think of Lilith, I think of the alien queen
hmm
Yeah,
from Alien.
right.
Right.
I mean, there's some people that call her the Queen of Demons.
Right.
Right. So if we
So-
think of demons and then we make that connection with Enoch as far as being like the
Nephilim and
disembodied
everything else,
spirits,
yeah.
right? Yeah, it's weird.
So who knows? Maybe. I mean, that's absolutely possible.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm sure. I mean, how much stuff we don't know,
Yeah. Right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
and I'm sure that there's correlation there, or there could be connection made,
Mhm.
especially if some traditions call her basically the Queen of Hell.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. If you ever seen what's his name? Ari Shafir has a
Yeah.
special called Jew, and he talks about the folklore of Lilith in that special and what his his teachers or his whatever you want to call them, pastors, whatever, what they would tell them if they touch themselves or whatever. They would tell them
Yeah,
like Lilith will
right.
come and steal your seed in the middle of the night or whatnot.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah, and that's the other thing too that I failed to bring up because this is just how things work. It's like definitely when I was younger, definitely had a porn addiction.
right.
So
Yeah,
that
I mean,
all goes hand in hand.
yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
agree. And same here, and same probably for a lot of the listeners.
Most boys in general, it's like literally you can't even help yourself.
Yeah, now it's way worse now. I mean,
so bad.
there's so
It
many
is.
stories about it. They get Starlink in like Africa, and an indigenous tribe gets
Yeah.
addicted to
No,
porn
yeah,
because they have
absolutely.
Starlink.
Yep, it's insane.
And then the town goes to crap because
yep,
no one
no
wants
more.
to work, no one
Right.
wants to do anything. They're getting dopamine hits like
dopamine
like,
hits like
you know.
crazy. Yep.
so.
So it's insane.
That's a good point, Jesse, you brought up because I saw some. I think I saw a video on that the other day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what was
Little
that?
videos.
I saw that too.
Yeah,
I-
it all gets
it-
around.
it
Right?
gets
We're all
around,
seeing the
yeah.
same stuff, the
Yeah.
same algorithm. I wanted to share my. I told Stevie about my dream I had recently, it was just a few months ago, and it was I think I saw Baphomet
Okay.
in my dream. It's the very first time. My dream was, and this is probably going to be censored. I'm going to do my best to censor this, but I'm a residential plumber here in Vegas, and my dream was I was just at a normal person's house, like finishing up a job. It was one of the most regular dreams I've ever had, and then all of a sudden, this naked woman walked in the room. And I'm like, that's weird, very odd. And I looked down, and this naked woman had an appendage on her. And the way she was looking at me was not like a seductive kind of like, it made me feel so incredibly weird. I saw that and I woke up like right after that and I was just like, what was that? And I thought about it a little bit and I'm like, is that Baphomet? Like, that's the androgynous kind of character of a man and a woman
Right.
or whatever. It was just such a weird dream. The feeling it gave me was just so odd. It was just like, what am I looking? It was just a weird deal.
It's
Yeah.
It
wild.
certainly didn't give me any Lilith vibes because I'm sure I've had dreams of Lilith and attractive women trying to seduce you.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a given, especially.
Well, let's see what the Lilith expert thinks of it.
Well, I mean,
I
I
was it
wouldn't call
Lilith?
me. I
Or,
wouldn't call me
No,
an
no.
expert,
I
but
know,
yeah,
that's crazy, man. You know, I haven't had any kind of supernatural experiences with something like that, but I have had something like attack me in my sleep that
yeah.
I perceived it to be like I was awake. I'm pretty sure I was awake. I don't know. It's a blur, but I said
Stuff
it a
gets
few
blurry,
times.
man, for sure.
It is blurry, man. It
It,
is, man.
But I'm like all in on this spiritual warfare front,
Mm.
you know, at this point, because I've come to realize that that's what it is, for sure.
Oh, no doubt, dude. I mean,
No
we're
doubt.
we're growing, you know, more of a sensitive um way to perceive these things. I think, you know, as time goes on, like it's like we're getting more experience seeing it happen, so we can see it more and more, and we try to, you know, broadcast seeds out there. Hey
Yeah,
guys, you
absolutely,
know,
for
like,
sure.
listen, can't tell myself anymore in the closet. I gotta come out here and start sharing
No,
some of this
for
stuff
sure,
because it's,
absolutely.
you know, because I mean, and other people's experiences play a huge role in this, you know, especially like, you know, the one you were getting into and talked about. I mean, that's wild, dude.
Well, what's crazy though is that so the confessionals episode that I was watching, or that I, you know, woke up into and then watched the rest of, his situation that he had was so similar in a lot of ways. And the way that he envisioned uh, her was almost identical to the
Mhm.
way that I see her, or had seen her. And it was like the girl from The Ring, like wearing this white shift, like just spooky as hell, man.
Man, I
But
mean,
it like came after him. I don't know if I couldn't remember if he was dreaming or not, but it was just not good. Um, but yeah, so since that, I have not had another incident.
you know,
So
you talked about kind of opening up, you know, doorways, right?
yeah,
For this kind of stuff to happen. I mean,
well, there's just all kinds of like ways that people do things that they don't realize, and they just
mhm,
live their life, right? They think that they're living life. I mean, you know, at one point I became a Mason. Um, red flag, right? Uh, didn't realize until later that it was complete. Uh, you know, I had I had literally said oaths to things, that, in my opinion, to like the devil.
yeah,
In essence. And now I've done work to renounce that. I've, you know, dealt with all the doors. I've closed the doors that I opened, in my opinion. Um, uh, but people, you know, this is all a game of consent, and
good point.
things will approach you that if you allow them in, you're giving them. I mean, think about the old stories of vampires. What do you have to do?
Yeah.
You have to invite them in, right?
Yep.
Why would it be any different for demons or all all these entities? Because I'm convinced it's not just obviously demons. There's other entities that maybe are even more powerful, right? Like fallen angels or entities like Lilith. I've been looking at Gary Wayne's work a lot lately because he's just a freaking wizard.
Yeah, he is.
Between him and
guy.
like Ed Mabry, he doesn't know who that is, right?
Yeah.
And then I've had conversations with Vicky Joy Anderson and, folks like her. They're just repositories of this amazing knowledge, right?
Right.
And,
Researched. I think we're having Ed Mabry on. I think we have him scheduled for next year.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's this month or next month.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, next month.
Yeah, he's great. I had him on the show, and I mean things like that. You realize that we're off base as a culture too.
No doubt.
By calling, as we've talked about, names have power, right? And when folks are exorcising demons from people, one of the most important things, I mean, look at Solomon back in the day too, was
right.
When you know the entity's name, it gives you power.
Right. And the funny thing about that is that ties into gematria, right? The Hebrew understanding of the letters and a numerical value.
Right. All that type of stuff. So this all matters, and knowing names and whatnot I am convinced that we do not have the name of the enemy. We don't know it.
Interesting.
We do not know the name.
What are you putting on our screen, sir?
These are the you brought up Solomon, right?
The Solomonic sigils.
So
yeah.
These are the sigils of Solomon. There's 72 of them.
Wow.
And what's very interesting is and I think there's way more other concepts that are like this, but I think that we're normalized and we're conditioned to practicing things that are invented by the occult.
Yeah.
And I think one of them, I saw a video on this a while ago. I did some research on it, blah, 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 but it seems to kind of have a weird connections to it. But there's 72 sigils of Solomon. And then I'll go here and I'll show you that in 2016, there were 72 emojis that were released for us to be able to text each other. And so what's weird is like, I can't exit. Okay, there we go. But can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 72, emojis. It was
it's just all emotions. Look at it. It's all what happened. Why are we?
No, I think he locked up.
Oh, I was wondering why he stopped talking.
Also, but you had 72 sigils of Solomon, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing that I wanted to bring is how many nations are in the Bible? Is it 70 or 72?
I'm not sure. Let me give that a Goog. Yeah. Oh, did he just drop off? It's all right. Yeah.
One of the ways you can always pop it back on and or pop out and then pop back in.
Yeah, we've learned this. But okay, so you said there's 70 nations.
Is it 70 or 72? I can't remember.
I think you might be right. I think it might be 72. How many nations in the Bible? There he is. There he is.
Wow.
There he is.
Sorry, guys.
70.
I think the devil did
70,
not
right?
like what I was talking about.
So there's 70.
No doubt.
So there's 70 nations. But if you look and you think about the way, if I'm not mistaken, there were principalities put over every one of those nations, right?
Right.
And that would be heavenly principalities, not earthly. And if you think about that, they didn't all stay good. That some of them went good, some of them went bad.
That's a good point.
So I just look at those sigils as, that's a way for him to bind those spirits or bind those things
to utilize those demons,
whatever powers that they were. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be just demons. Maybe they're fallen angels or whatever,
right?
Because Lilith definitely wouldn't be a demon per se. I would not call her that at all.
Interesting. Well, that is a good point.
She is something different.
Now, it wasn't it the demons that built Solomon's temple, where he utilized their powers
where
to build his
he
temple?
used them to build. Yeah.
Right.
So
Wow.
Yeah, I had a buddy that had a that was carrying around. I can't remember which sigil it was, but listen to this. He found this sigil like on the ground, or he found this necklace. It's just like you can find it on Amazon. It's just a black rope, a little black rope with lead or silver encryption of a sigil, and you know, if you just look it up, it might just tell you like this is a symbol or sigil of, it will bring you good luck, or
yeah,
it might tell you something like
always
that. But when
something
you
harmless, right?
yeah, but when you look into it, it's actually using a demons
Yeah.
to provide you this so-called luck.
Yeah.
And it took me a couple of years to send it to him, but he wore it for years. And then I sent him a text like, dude, not even a year ago, and he doesn't wear it anymore. And I sent him exactly what the sigil was and what it meant. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but he immediately was like, "Oh, okay, let me
Yeah,
take
right.
this off."
So one of the things that, and this is what I was saying before, is so we don't know the name of the enemy, like the main enemy. I don't think we do. Because Lucifer is wholly incorrect. Because it actually that is it's Latin.
It's a Latin term, right?
Yeah, and
Latin,
it means light bringer, basically.
Right.
Just like in what was it in?
Yeah, Gary
Isaiah
brought that to my attention.
14:12, which does name it names the fallen one, the Hillel Ben
Shakar.
Ben Shakar. But again, not a name, right? And that's because that means, shining one light bearer. So yeah, we have this
So they're
shining
titles.
one light bearer beaten to death, right? I mean,
Right.
even the
Good
name
point.
Satan is not a name; it's a
Just
job
means foe.
title.
Yeah, just means like foe.
It's
or whatever.
it's actually what it really means is the way that I like to look at it. And adversary. But Ed Marbury he can lighten this up, for you. But basically, they're like, you got to think of him as like a prosecutor. And they are, and this is demons in general. It's not just whatever, but the job title Satan, the Hasatan, right, is basically like a prosecutor. And that's what he did to, is it Job?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is he brought Job is, he loves you, God, but, it's only because of this.
Right.
Or it's only because you don't mess with him and this and that and the other thing. So he's there just to be like this little, seed planter.
Yeah.
In the brain of God. And he's like, okay, well, yeah, go test him. So he goes and he takes all his stuff, right? So this is what happens to you every day. This is what happens to all of us, is we have these demons that follow us around, and they're like little prosecutors, like little private investigators.
Right.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
And that
little PIs.
Little PIs, and they blow you into the man all the time. Right? But that's what they're there for.
Like,
and because they're just trying to disrupt your life.
Right.
Period.
Wow.
And that's how I look at demons and whatnot. And this is why it does matter. This is where character comes in, because character is doing the right thing even when no one's looking, because guess what? Somebody's always looking.
Ooh, right. That is a tough pill to swallow, my friend. I think about it all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I sit here.
Oh, yeah.
I remember when, I don't remember what the verse was, but we had Shepherd of the King on the podcast a while ago. We got to get him back on, but he was talking about a verse that talks about these demons that do follow you around your whole life, and they're recording everything. They know everything about you.
Yeah.
And it's such a disturbing verse, and it's just like it makes sense, and it's so hard for people.
I was just thinking of that.
It's so hard for people that aren't of the faith to go like, no, that was my decision to watch this or do that. And it's like, well, who popped the thought in your head? Like, what made you think of this, or what made you
Right.
want
I
to do
mean,
that?
I'll give a great example, and it seems so menial, but I'm 100% in, because what is one of the worst things that we can put into our body? It's
Alcohol,
well, you have alcohol.
Mhm.
right?
How many people have issues with alcohol, right?
Yeah, a lot of people.
Something as mundane as fast food.
Oh, dude, yeah,
And whenever you drive by a fast
as
food
mundane,
restaurant, don't
exactly.
tell me that you're driving down the gauntlet of fast food restaurants and go, man, a
The
Big Mac would
gauntlet
taste
of,
really good right now.
dude, that is so
Or
true.
Arby's fillet of fish or whatever. You know, I don't care.
Arby's roast beef. Oh, stop it!
Right.
See, you're
Dude,
making me want to.
but you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
I love Arby's roast beef.
and
Everybody always rags on me about
but
it.
you literally drive down the road and you get hit with this
Yeah.
constantly.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Literally, you're right. It's on every corner.
Right.
There's literally a McDonald's across from a McDonald's. It's like, what?
yes, it is a gauntlet. That's what I call it. That's what I call those main roads.
That's
It's
a
like
good point.
like driving down a gauntlet, man.
Let's
I mean,
get
in
rid
the
of 'em.
military, we had these things whenever you got promoted, you went through the gauntlet. People would get to hit you or whatever.
It's the same in
Dumb
jujitsu. Yeah, you
hazing.
get your belt. You get promoted to a new belt. You have to get slapped with belts. You walk through the whole gym and they slap you in the back.
Yeah, I never. See, here's the thing: is even back then, I never participated in that. I would just walk up, and it used to make people so mad.
Ah,
I would
love
just
it.
walk up and shake their hand and be like, "Congratulations," and
Nice.
I'd walk away
ah,
instead of participating. In
That's
the
hilarious,
nonsense. Oh, they did it to me. I was
This
like,
is a
well,
tradition.
this
Yeah,
is part
it's
of
such
the,
a sheep
this is-
thing.
Isn't that part of the problem?
Yeah, exactly.
yes. Well,
You
you
see
got to
this-
learn to take orders in the military and learn to
Yeah.
take orders under authority. You know,
Yeah, but it doesn't
Good
make
sheep.
it right.
Yeah. It's like learn to submit. Learn to submit.
Yes.
Yeah,
So it's always about submission. It's always about that, and I just can't.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
anymore.
Well,
I
no, I
won't.
hear you.
yeah, you were bringing up fast food, man. I mean, well, when you look at the corporate level of things, they're masterminds behind how to manipulate the human nature with its pleasures. And like,
I mean, I'm sorry,
It's-
but how is it that we have one product here and another product in like Germany,
Right.
Right.
Fruit Loops.
right.
right?
Why is there red
right.
FD&C Red 40 in my Fruit
right?
Loops
Or
and they
why
have
does what was the one I heard today? Something has ammonia in it
oh goodness.
Wow.
as like a flavor enhancer or some nonsense.
Oh, that's nonsense.
But instead, overseas, it's like it's beta carotene. It's what
Yeah.
it's used as like a dye or something.
Oh,
But
jeez.
Okay.
Like, yeah,
like,
I'm gonna look
what?
that up real
Are
quick.
you kidding me? Yeah. So what? You're literally saving like $2 per thing.
It doesn't make any sense.
So at the end of the day, I just look at all this stuff as being influenced.
Of course.
So once you start looking at the world like that, to me, it makes a lot more sense.
Oh no, that's the question too. It's like why? So, oh, you're saving $2? I don't believe that. They're making their money in France. They're making their money in
Right.
Spain. They're making their
Exactly.
money
Or
in
else
all
they
these other
wouldn't.
countries. And then you look here and you go, why are we doing it here and not there? That company's over there too. They're still making
Exactly.
and the product it just doesn't it doesn't make any sense, and it is a eugenics program if you
Yeah.
ask me.
It doesn't. It just doesn't add up. And
No.
when things don't add up, you know.
No, I think it's a eugenics program. What do you think about eugenics? The Bill Gates, the
Well, who knows? I mean, it's one of those things. Is I look at where is that influence coming from? Like, what are they? Who is planting those seeds in Bill Gates to make him think that way?
right. Well, his
Um,
family, he does have lineage in
Well,
eugenics,
and that's
of course,
fine.
right?
And the lineage is, what is that lineage? And where, what controlling entity? I'm pretty.
Right.
I'm almost convinced too now at this point. It's very obviously conspiratorial, but I'm almost convinced that most nations leaders have deals with some sort of entity, whether that's the principality that's over the area that they are in or something. I'm almost convinced that there's deals made with all kinds of these things.
Of course there is. Of course there is. And this is where we tie into the fallen knowledge. And
Yes.
when you date all that, you get the Gen 6 and the conspiracy and Gary Wayne, and you get all this information together, it makes a lot more sense. You go,
Oh, it
why?
does.
Well, these families that run the world, they want to keep their lineage going. And how do you keep the lineage? How do you keep your power?
The
Well, what do? You dumb
Royales,
down
as you would
everybody
know
around
them.
you.
Yeah.
So that is what it is. I wanted to transition, if you guys don't mind. I don't know, Stevie, if you.
No, you're good. Sorry, I had to go step away for a second.
Oh, I'm gonna leave this whole thing with one little bow.
Yeah, dude.
So the thing that literally put me over the edge, and I'm not gonna say it to do everyone that needs to do this, but at the end of the day, if you want to really find out who you are as a person and internally know who and what you can do, I did a 40-day fast.
Ooh.
A straight biblical fast. And it opened the shutters and the doors and every curtain in the house wide open and exposed it to the freaking sunlight. Right. And talk about doing some house cleaning. Right.
Wow.
Because not eating for 40 days is one thing.
That's wild.
Physically, right? And you're going to lose weight and all the fun stuff. But it's where the work is done is right here.
Oh, no doubt. Right? 10% physical, 90% mental, right?
So bottom line is you want to figure out who you are as a man. Get after it.
Wow.
I agree with that, man. I mean, the longest fast I did was 72 hours. But I tell you what, man, when I was, I mean, it was a strict fast where it was just water. But I'm telling you, I started praying, and there were certain things in my life that I was kind of dealing with that, just I let take control. But man, when I got done with the 72-hour fast, it was just 72 hours, right? But there were chains broken that were attached to me, maybe some oppression from kind of like the things we were talking about,
Yeah, no, exactly.
And,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So this is the culminating factor. Is this happened right around the new year? It happened, actually, I started it December 26th. That's when I started it. And finished it whenever 40 days later is.
Wow.
It was hardcore.
Yeah.
Bottom line. And you know what? Here's the thing. I'm starting to get the urge to do it again.
And it's healthy for you.
No, it is. No, I mean, I know fasting. I fast quite a bit anyway.
Right. But you do like intermittent fasting?
Yeah, not just that. I really don't I don't do the intermittent fasting as much. I do more of like a 48 to 72
hardcore.
or even go 7 days,
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I do this periodically, but at the end of the day, I also have, and I'm going to knock on wood saying this, I have almost literally zero. I mean, and I'm overweight. I'm substantially overweight, and I have like zero health issues.
Nice.
I don't know why I can't lose weight, but it's not always about that, right?
Right.
So at the end of the day, I mean, I'm still able to walk. I'm still able to lift every day, yada, yada, yada. I eat very, very well, very clean, but I can't lose weight. So I don't know if something else is still broken or what. I have no idea, but it doesn't matter. I'm saying if you want to really explore this, this stuff, get after it.
It's a test on our mental capacity too, man.
And it's biblical.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So
go ahead, Jesse. You wanted to
shift.
Oh, well, no, we can keep, I'll say something about the fasting too, and then we'll shift to that. But I did, for the first time, I did 40 hours not too long ago. And that was tough because of the circumstance, people eating around me. I was the only one doing it. It's like, you get thrown all these curveballs. But I during the times of 2019, the time of the spreading around, and I listened to Rhonda Patrick, went on Joe Rogan, started talking about intermittent fasting.
Yep.
And I tried it out, and I eventually got the hang of intermittent fasting, and my eating schedule has changed ever since then. So when I wake up in the morning, I don't even think about food. 99.9% of the time, I just don't. And that's because I learned how to do that. It wasn't easy at first. It took me like 3 weeks to a month to get to that. But my favorite thing to do, and it keeps my head clear, because guess what? I'm working all day in the field. So, and it's the same with Stevie. Stevie's a paramedic firefighter. So if you gotta stay sharp. So I would, at lunchtime, typically for years, I'd go to Firehouse Subs or Porta Subs out here, whatever. I don't know if you guys have those, but regardless, we'd go to a sub shop, a sandwich shop, and I'd eat. I'm just gonna get a 6-inch. No, I'm gonna get a 12-inch. Smash the 12-inch, and then the blood rushes to your gut, and you're like lethargic, and you're tired.
Oh yeah, the rest of the day.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, now I got 6 more hours to work. This sucks. So when I started doing that, it really fixed all of the mental clarity that came in. So that's what I really appreciated about that. Also, when we talk about sinning, when you talk about, like Stevie was saying, like breaking bad sin or bad habits.
Yeah.
I should
Well,
say.
there's just things that we have bondage to naturally as humans, man. I mean, it's just our
eating.
nature is not really the most holy thing.
No.
And on a personal level, I mean, it's like we were talking about before, like there's someone watching. There is, bro. It's like, and hey,
absolutely.
I'm guilty.
And we're sinful by nature. So
yes. Yeah. Yeah, but that's the thing we're talking about. It's like the fasting, for whatever reason, you hit the 17, 18-hour mark, 20-hour mark, and you're like, your head is, as long as you stay hydrated. I think the biggest part about fasting properly is staying hydrated.
Yes.
So, and that's tough for people, and everybody's body's different.
You also need to hydrate with electrolytes, especially if you're fasting.
Right. And I started getting Celtic salt.
Yeah.
Or Celtic salt.
Right.
Yeah. And
I
it's
use a brand called Redmond's.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yep.
Real salt. So,
yeah. Real salt. I've used real salt. I transitioned to Celtic salt recently because what I've read about it has more nutrients.
Metals.
It's more natural, I guess. I don't know. It's different too. I don't know if you ever had it, but it's like real moist.
Oh yeah, I have a bag of it in my,
It's not the best. It doesn't taste the best, I'll tell you that.
No, but it's good with food too, though. So
yeah,
is it? I haven't tried it with food.
Yeah, I'll use it to season chili or whatever. A lot of times instead, or I use like smoked salt. So same thing, whatever. Yeah, but either way,
I've thought sometimes. I'm like, if I am going to do a fast and I do drink all this water, I have to supplement my water. But it's like back in the day, did they have to do that? Like,
well, no, but they also didn't drink
water.
That's my
stripped out water,
right?
Exactly. And it wasn't stripped out and conditioned and chlorinated and all the nonsense, right? So I have a pretty heavy duty filter that I put in. Literally, it takes out like 98% of everything out.
What do you got?
It's a Pure One filter.
Pure One. I think
it's like a Berkey filter, but it's a ceramic gravity filter.
Right. So you feed it from the top, and
and I also, if I don't have that, I almost always have a jug, like a 7-gallon jug of spring water.
Nice.
That's from a literal spring that's right down the road from me.
Nice.
Dude, the spring water in New York, my buddy had a spring in his backyard. Or creek. I think we got it from a creek. Just coming from a spring.
Yeah.
And he would keep it in his he had a fridge in his barn.
Yeah.
And man, it had ice in the middle of the winter. He'd keep it in milk jugs. The best water I've ever had in my life.
So this is from a place called Whiskey Hollow.
I'm familiar. Yep.
Yeah. So that place is haunted as hell.
Yes, I've heard.
Wow. It just sounds
I have a story about that too. It's crazy.
Wow.
Run it real quick.
Real quick, my buddy and I, so the other podcast that we have, the Whispers of the Wood Ape, it's me and my buddy Jewel, who is a Marine, and anyway, I won't go into all that, but we do filming and stuff. So we're trying to work up a documentary on haunted Onondaga, which is
yeah.
the county I live in is
Yep.
Onondaga County. And so we're going to do a whole bunch of the counties. We'll probably get down to Geneva at some point,
Yep.
but just kind of make them in like mini documentaries, right? 15 to 30 minutes long on haunted
Love
places
that.
around it. But one of them is Whiskey Hollow Road, which is like the most haunted road in New York State. It's ridiculous. Like you're talking about like satanic rituals and killings and stuff that have happened allegedly on that road. Well, there's like a little spot where you can stop. You can't even go there. It's illegal technically to go there after dark.
Oh, wow.
So it's technically county land. So I don't know if anyone patrols it, but either way, why would you want to go at night?
Yeah, well.
So either way, we stopped. There's a trail, as there is in a lot of these places in New York State, there's just a trail that you can walk. Well, there's a defined entrance to this trailhead, right? And we stopped, got out, and we're filming this trailhead. And as soon as we passed under there was like an arch that had the name of the trail on it. It was like the White Oak Trail or whatever. And I got out. Everything, and I'm not kidding, it was a sunny day out, birds and everything. But as soon as we walked through that arch, it went dead silent.
Dead silent, yep.
And there was no sound. You couldn't even hear birds. The one thing we did hear finally was a woodpecker.
Interesting.
And the air just felt thick. It was bizarre. And it wasn't just me, it was him too. We both look at each other like, are you serious right now?
Oh, yeah.
So then, and again, getting chills thinking about it. We turned around and walked back out there, and breeze is blowing. It was bizarre.
Yeah, dude.
It was absolute insanity.
I've had that experience as well in the woods in New York. And I remember the first time I was hearing a Bigfoot encounter on the confessionals, and they said the same thing. They got out of their vehicle. They were driving down really late at night, a back road. I can't remember where these guys were, but they got out, and the first thing they noticed was it was just dead air. Just thick, just silence.
Oof. Yeah.
And it is when when
that's
you're
creepy right there.
It's so creepy. So this is where I wanted to transition to was the cryptid. So perfect.
Oh, shoot.
You're doing your cryptid stuff. What are your plans with that? What have you been doing? How did you get into it?
Mainly, the first time I ever went on I did a BFRO expedition. And from that point I've been hooked.
So what's BFRO?
The Bigfoot Research Organization. This is the one that's owned or run by Matt Moneymaker, the guy who did what's the Bigfoot show that was so big with Bobo and those guys on Discovery maybe or History. Either way, I went on an expedition with them in the Allegheny National Forest. And since then, I've never gone on another BFRO one, but some of the people that I've met through that, we meet up in Allegheny a few times a year. And almost every single time we go, I have some sort of incident or some sort of encounter. Now, I've had 2 close encounters growing up, once when I was 12 and once when I was in the Marines. Where literally ran into a Bigfoot and
wow.
Yeah, it was insane. Screaming, scared. Oh my God, so scared. The smell is awful. I think that the smell is actually how a skunk when it gets scared will spray.
Oh yeah.
I actually think that that's what that awful smell is in association with Bigfoot for the most part.
To deter you.
Yeah, deterrent or just a some sort of stress reaction from
Huh?
the,
Wow.
Now, whether or not Bigfoot is, we won't go into that in depth, whether I think it's like a Nephilim or
Yeah.
something like that,
Right.
whether it's a spiritual entity or a physical, I think it's a little bit of both. I kind
Right.
of go along the lines of like L.A. Marzulli's ideas with that. But so we investigate and do research down in the Allegheny National Forest pretty regularly, like once a quarter. But I also have a research area close to me, which is my buddy's property, which we call Broken Bridge Research Area, because I think he has a bridge that was going over a stream on his property, and I think Sasquatch tore it down, so we couldn't
Wow.
get to the other side of the property. But anyway,
No one's ever built it back up, or
no, we just haven't put it back up, and it's sat. Nobody's been to that side of the property in about 2 years.
oh
So
wow,
we're about to go over there though.
wow.
Snap.
And he's had incidents where he's been bluff charged in his backyard.
What's that? What's
and
a
so
what is
so
that?
you know, like a gorilla, right? Watch a gorilla
Right.
documentary or whatever, and they'll like charge people, but then they stop short, right?
Right.
So I feel like I've seen and dealt with a few situations where Sasquatch bluff charged people.
Wow.
I mean,
And
that's
it
got to be
doesn't.
terrifying.
Oh, it's absolutely terrifying. And I actually have one on film. You can't hear it though, and you can't see the Sasquatch, but it's a guy who's been Sasquatch researching for 25 years. I have it on thermal. But I don't have the actual Bigfoot on thermal. But I've got him running away from the spot. But yeah, he said something just crashed through the trees
Yeah.
right at him and stopped just short of coming out. Right, of course,
Right.
of
Right.
course.
Right.
Stop coming out.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? I'm a knower. That's how I say it. I know that they exist. I've never had like a full-fledged Class A sighting where I saw the face and the features, but I've seen the outline
Right.
of an individual that was at least 9 feet tall.
Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
you know, it's so funny with, ghost stories, paranormal, cryptids. They all kind of share the same characteristic as far as being extremely hard to catch with like good evidence, right? Like,
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah, because you know why? It's stressful.
You could say the same thing about UFOs too, right? Like you can,
Yeah,
it's just
right. Because everyone that judges people like that, or everyone you hear like, oh, thanks for showing us the picture. Come out with me. I'm inviting you. Come with me and I will show you
right.
how hard it is to even think of filming this thing, because I'm telling you that they avoid it. I use trail cams so I can sleep soundly at night
Right.
when I'm in the woods. I set up trail cams and infrared lasers, literally, so nothing messes with me.
Wow.
Because I'm telling you that they can see it, or they know.
Yeah.
Right. I have a rooftop tent on top of my SUV, and but before that I was sleeping in tents, and we had a couple times when something was messing with the tent. But since I started sleeping with trail cams, and I don't even set up the trail cams to try and catch him, because I know I'm not. I know it's not going to happen.
Right.
But I use them as a deterrent, and I've never had an issue since.
Wow.
So
It's so funny. It's like the inverted way to act. You're using it. It's your
yeah, absolutely, it is. But I was
defense
like, you know what?
mechanism.
Okay, I'm gonna try that. So I mean, like literally, we were just rehashing this. I was down in Allegheny because we're trying to do a documentary on Allegheny National Forest too, and I was interviewing a few people that and doing some Bigfoot research along the way. but we were at this campsite that we had been at before, and we had gotten this ungodly, terrifying howl from within 25 meters of our where we were, right? And it was a response to a call from a buddy of mine who does the best Sasquatch calls ever. But of course, none of us were recording it. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things, like, you don't, you think you think that it would be easy, but it's just not.
Right.
And then you run into the idea of, well, maybe they're garble in your brain. Who knows? I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, what I've come to realize about all this stuff is that we don't know about anything. So as soon as you think you know, man, you're wrong. You better go read another book.
Mm-hmm.
Or something, because you don't know, and we don't know anything about any of this stuff. I mean, we can't even tell you the name of our main enemy in this whole fight, right? So can we really even get, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's so much stuff that we just don't know. So
yeah,
That's very true, man. Yeah, I had an encounter with my wife years ago in Calico Basin here. I've told this story before on the podcast. We had rocks thrown at us, and we thought it was just falling, and then this big rock landed next to us, and the sun was going down. We're in the middle of a canyon in Vegas. Like, this is it's a basin. It's literally where the Vegas River used to run through. So it still holds water fairly well. So there is some greenery typically especially during the
there's
rainier
like
parts of
trees
the
in
season.
there and
yeah,
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it's a very like enclosed space. So we get this rock land next to us after another rock and another rock, and we're like, okay, someone's throwing rocks at us. We started laughing. We're like, we ran away. I was with my other friend, and then we look back. She slips and falls, and I go back to pick her up, and this is all sand. And then in the middle of the basin, I look in the middle of the basin, and there's this thing it's very tall, and it has huge circular red eyes. Bright red eyes, almost like literally, like so bright, super bright LED red eyes. It was the craziest thing ever. And I looked at this thing, paused, staring at this thing, going, "What the hell is that?"
Yeah.
Picked her up, and we kept running, and she turned around and saw it herself as well. And it's just like that. I couldn't make out the body. I couldn't. It's completely black, dark. It was a wild. That's my craziest experience, really.
Now you should look at the Bigfoot mapping project and see if there's any sightings and stuff
in that
area.
Yeah, I'll check that out. Bigfoot mapping. Okay.
And then along with that, there's a Sasquatch data project, and she's doing some work, boy. That basically her data shows that Bigfoot exists. That's like 98 point something % chance.
Wow.
Now, that's not the exact data, right?
Of course.
But it's in essence.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Harley Owens?
Yeah, I know. I've talked to Harley through Instagram multiple times.
Nice.
But I haven't had him on the show yet. We had a date set, and then it got squandered when the storm went through Tennessee and North Carolina and everything. Wow. He had to like flee his house and stuff. So we haven't gotten back together. I mean, we've talked since then, texted back and forth, but I just haven't set up a time to get him on the show.
Yeah, I'm excited to have him on in the here in the near future. I was able to get settle on a date to get him on, so it'll be cool.
He's all up in Scott Carpenter's old neck of the woods, and Scott Carpenter, man, that guy did it right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think he was killed for doing the research that he's doing. So,
oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know for sure, but that's some very intelligent folks that are in this community think that he was either zapped, what we call zapped, and it, messed with himself or whatnot somehow, and he ended up dying in a restaurant.
Oh, jeez.
So, but anyway,
Goodness.
yeah, man.
Well, I wanted to circle back around. So you mentioned you had similar views to the Bigfoot idea as L.A. Marzulli. What did you mean by that?
Okay, so LA thinks that they are, he thinks that they are what you would call the Therion, right? You guys know that term from the
No.
So it's the beasts of the forest, or the beasts of the earth, right? So he thinks that they are created from, say, Nephilim, that they're what you would call Eliud,
Right.
which are the
Sons
offspring of the Nephilim, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he thinks that essentially that Bigfoot and Dogman and some of these other cryptids are these what you would call Therion, the beasts of the earth. Now, whether or not they're all evil, I have no idea. But I think that there's rules that they have to follow under, because otherwise I feel like people would be, but why do so many people disappear in national forests, right? So you look at,
thing.
You look at David Paulides and his work, and that goes along hand in hand with Scott Carpenter as well, because he was one of the main folks that gathered DNA for the DNA test that Melba Ketchum did. And people that discount this Melba Ketchum DNA, Sasquatch DNA project, shame on you.
So what is that, real quick, if you don't mind? Just, I've never heard of it.
She's a veterinarian. Her name is Melba Ketchum, and she did a DNA project where they collected all kinds of different DNA from reported Sasquatch, right?
Wow.
And they went through all kinds of stuff, like wrapping trees with duct tape and setting up traps to pull hair out, and all kinds of different things, right? So they were able to get, if you look it up, Sasquatch or the Sasquatch DNA project.
Yeah, I'll have to get that.
The thing is that a lot of it doesn't, a lot of it's definitely suppressed. And yes, she shot herself in the foot and did not do some right things when it came to releasing the information. The thing is, though, is if you look, if you get on YouTube and look up Scott Carpenter Sasquatch DNA project, he'll go through the whole thing and explain all of it. He's got a book. See, that's what I'm looking for right now, and what it's called, because I have the book and I've read it.
Yeah, I'm interested in that. I'm actually gonna.
So he
give that a Goog.
And at the end of the day, this DNA evidence. So she had outsourced a bunch of the DNA testing to like university labs. Even there's a couple of university labs. They had no idea what they were testing. Okay, so how blind could you get with that? Like, because she was trying to work out confirmation bias and all these other things when it came to the stuff. Well, it comes down to the end, and they get the results, and they were able to get the mitochondrial DNA, and it came back as human female, right? But the nuclear DNA came back as no match. So what does that mean? In DNA land, you don't get a match if the thing that you're testing is not in the system. So people can very easily dismiss that and be like, well, see, it was contaminated, or there's no match. Right? Well, there's no match because there's nothing in the system.
Right.
So what would that other thing be? I mean, if could it be angel? Could it be what could it be?
It's like materialized celestial body, spirit, whatever.
Right. And that's not going to pop up in the DNA.
Right,
right?
right, right.
So that's what it was, and the female halotropes were mainly from the Middle East. So explain
Interesting.
that.
Interesting.
So I'm probably butchering a lot of this, and people in your audience are probably like, dude, you have no idea what you're talking about. I'm telling you what I remember, but follow up on it. Find it. Again, I'm broadcasting seeds.
There we go.
Check it out. Check it out yourself.
Nice.
Like, if you want to be a critic, then go get some knowledge on your own stuff before you start throwing stones at other people.
Mhm.
So that's what I have to say to that. Is this is what I've done. I mean, I've given presentations on this, so I'm somewhat familiar with the stuff. I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I know to an extent what I'm talking about, at least what I can regurgitate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I'm not a geneticist, so
You know, for the most part, I'm pretty sold on the Eliud thing. I mean,
Yeah.
especially with just gathering up some more information, some stories.
Well, one of the
and
other
it's like
thing too is what's his name? Bo
Kennedy, right?
Yeah, Bo Kennedy.
Yeah.
That famous interview at this point that he had with that woman who had the relationship, psychic, whatever, communications with the Bigfoot, and it told her that it was an Eliud.
Yeah.
It's Search of Redemption.
Right. Right.
Yes.
Can he be redeemed?
Wow.
I have no idea.
Right, dude.
But why not?
It makes so much sense.
The way that I look at it at this point too is I was just watching an episode of Gary Wayne today. Fantastic episode. On
The Biblical Hitman? No, I'm just kidding.
Biblical Hitman. What's the name of that podcast? It's got what the hell's his name? Travis Welch.
It's The Deep.
The Deep.
Yeah, I was watching it today.
The Deep End
today.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But he talks about the fact that, I mean, so many of us probably have giant DNA.
Mm.
Yeah, he was saying something like 15% of the population.
Maybe. Yes, he did. And
it's interesting.
And, I mean,
this is what Brian says. Brian, Demon Erasers.
RH negative.
Yeah, we even brought that up.
I don't think I'm RH negative, but I can tell you my father-in-law probably is. He's an O negative blood, right? So from what I understand, I'm not positive, but from what I understand, people that are O negative are also RH negative.
Interesting. Yeah, Gary was bringing it up on one of the episodes we had with him with the whole RH negative thing. And I mean, I haven't done any research on it, but
yeah,
it's very fascinating to think of.
I'm starting to dig into the Basque people. If you've heard about, we're the Basque people in southern France and northeastern Spain. And the Basque people are something like somewhere between 50 to 80% RH negative.
Oh, wow.
And they also
Where's this located again?
It's northeastern France, or northeastern Spain and southwestern France. It covers like the Pyrenees Mountains. And the Basque, just look it up. It's Basque, Basque people. And they have a language that is not related to any other language that's on this planet. It's its own thing. It's not really related to anything else. And their mythos, like Gary was talking about this as well, but I've looked into it before. Their mythology also has their ancestors surviving the flood.
Wow.
Really?
Possibly. This is one of the theories, right? And the other one is that they are Atlanteans. That was another thing. So you want to broadcast seeds and plant crazy. Yeah.
Wow. I'm actually looking it up right now.
Yeah. The Basque
I just
people.
can't shut my brain off with this stuff, guys. Like I literally, I go wild constantly. Like I can't stop.
It's here. It's literally talking about their genetic origins and their DNA. I mean,
Yeah.
I get it, right? They're a lineage of people, but this is very fascinating. I'm gonna have to dig into this a little bit.
Yeah. And it's wild.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's a wild concept to kind of think of when it comes to the blood type, man. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, at the end of it, the blood doesn't lie, right? I mean, it's not going to. So I mean, maybe we have some weird, I don't know. Again, we don't know anything.
Right.
But there's a reason that some of these bigger entities, like, you guys know who Heidi Love is, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And she'll go into how the Mormons are collecting all this DNA. I mean, they're not the only
Right.
ones. But why? Why would
Right.
you? For what possible reason? And a lot of people are, I mean, guys like L.A. Marzulli are all about the seed war,
Yeah.
which you guys have talked about. I mean,
Mhm.
I can't remember. Did you guys talk about the seed war with Doc Brown?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. His theory's fascinating.
Yep.
It is. Yeah. And we've also talked with Joy Pugh as well.
Yes. Yes.
She wrote a book on it, I think.
Lately, so like all of this research and some of the stuff that I keep bringing up, the one thing that I've totally changed my mind on as just being completely not real is the little season. Satan's little season, and they're unfortunately the Satan's little season folks are like a cult, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
I mean, I love all people, but at the end of the day, I think they're wrong.
So you said you changed your mind on it, so they had you.
Yeah,
sold
because there, I thought there was some meat there, but Ed Mabry fixed me on that real quick.
Oh wow. Okay. What is he? What in a short?
No,
stance,
he's just and he puts forth some evidence to me that just totally takes it away, and it's evidence that the little seasoners conveniently ignore. Oh God, and why it's escaping me right now.
I listened to him not too long ago. Him, John Kerwin, Brandon Kroll. There was another guy. He was on the little season side, and they had somewhat. It wasn't like an actual debate. It was more like a conversation of disagreement. But I would definitely, encourage people to go watch it. It was good. It was good.
Absolutely.
Obviously there's both points on both sides, but
If I'm not mistaken, I think the podcast that he explains it really well on at the end of. I mean, I've had the conversation with him, but it was on the Awaken podcast with Brad Lale.
Gotcha.
He talks about it. I think it was just the last couple of days. And he brings up why exactly the little season is just, we're not there. It's yeah.
Interesting.
I'm gonna check that out.
That's my nod to Brad. Yeah. So
yeah, man.
And I want to say it was called something with the dragon.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah, we got these phones, man.
Right.
Instantaneous knowledge.
I'm gonna have to look up this.
Yeah, the dragon, Satan's names, Moloch, the Trinity, Ezekiel 28, Seraphim, angels. Yeah, so it's actually Brad's latest episode.
Nice.
Well, as of this recording, which was one day ago. But yeah, Ed gives a pretty good explanation of why we're not in the little season.
Yeah, he does good.
He's written a book about it at this point now. So if you guys wanted to check that out, I know you can get it through his Patreon.
He does have a book on it.
Yeah,
okay.
on why we're not on Satan's little season.
Gotcha.
So.
Gotcha. He makes some valid points, some good points, man. And,
yeah, he does.
And
I just can't remember off the top of my head what the one that was like, oh, well, you can't really explain that one away, and I can't remember what that was.
Yeah,
there's really a few things. It's like the mountains cease to be a thing. The
Oh
mountains
yeah.
go
Well,
away.
part of it is just revelation in general and the amount of destruction
Right.
that is put upon the earth.
Right.
And then what did Jesus just decide to like reinstitute that and then disappear? I
Right.
don't,
Well, it's an
there's
interesting
just
point. I mean,
it is. There's some good points, and of course, I'm sure there's counterpoints as well.
mhm.
But I don't think, in my understanding of biblical and the power that these fallen have, I don't think they could erase everything. And that's kind of what they're trying. That's kind of what they're saying has been done. Is they have erased like 90% of the reigning kingdom, and also Satan's little season isn't like a 200-year farce or like even like 20 years. The way that it's written in the Bible, it's pretty immediate. And if I'm not mistaken, most of the translations also have Jesus still reigning
During
when the little season supposedly happens, because the whole idea is that Satan's one job is to gather the armies of the earth
to go after
to
Christ.
to go after Christ in Jerusalem.
Mm.
So I guess we lost.
No,
Because
I mean, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, man. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's one of those things. Again, are they bringing? Is he gathering the armies to fight against who? Because right now, would you say Jesus is in control? No, he's not. Right? I mean, not in the way that we think a king would reign.
right.
Right? And at the other side of that too is I mean, that's the main point, I think, for me, is that Jesus is still in power when the little season happens. And he is definitely not in power right now. And no, the power, the little season is not about Satan controlling everything. His one job is to gather the armies, not control popular opinion and all the other things that are going on right now.
Yeah, it
right?
honestly is drawing like a picture in my mind of one of those battles, dude, in like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
Where
literally.
it's yeah. And you know what's funny too is what Lord of the Rings was it? I think it was the third one, where there's the civilization is built into the side of a mountain.
Well, you have Helm's Deep happened in the Two Towers,
right?
But then you have the Oz. I think it's Osgiliath or whatever. It's Gondor. It's the big white.
Yeah. It's like got like a glow to it,
and everyone and all the armies converge on that.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's exactly. Well, you realize that's based on the Bible, right?
Yeah.
So Tolkien wrote all that stuff as the hero's journey, which is what the Bible really is to an extent.
Right. Right.
So there's mad correlations between the Bible and
gotcha.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's
right?
Crazy
if you think about it. So
all these movies, a lot of these movies, they all
again. We need to make some freaking biblical Lord of the Rings. Like,
come on with
I
it.
can't even get beyond it. Like David's mighty men. Like that, digging into that whole thing just will make your head explode. That probably most of the 37 named mighty men were probably either giants and or lion men and dog men.
Wow.
You start digging into that. I mean, the men of Moab, they're lions.
No, it is interesting.
There's so many. The Amorites, they're giants, man.
Yeah.
And most of these guys that fought for David, again, so this brings up this redemption story to me. Just because you're a giant or a Nephilim doesn't mean you can't be redeemed.
Right.
And this is one of the issues I have with the Nephilim. It's the only place that I kind of waver with the Nephilim being demons, right? Which that was in Enoch, right? But is there a point when that gets diluted enough?
Right.
Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if we all have Nephilim giant blood, how are any of us redeemable? I mean, is there like a percentage? As long as you're below, 4% giant blood, you can
Well,
be redeemed.
Brian of Demon Erasers has a really interesting take on this, and he says everybody with canine teeth has some of it in them because that's a Canaanites. And then he talks about Saint Christopher. Saint Christopher, I think there's multiple Saint Christophers, but there's a Saint Christopher that is literally he's depicted as a dog man.
Yeah, right.
But he's in a
I've
robe,
seen
like
that
he's a
before.
saint, like he's
Yeah.
a saint. He's of sainthood. He's in a robe. He's saved. But the Brian at Demon Race just blew my mind, saying like, listen, guys, like if you got canine teeth in your mouth, like you have that DNA.
It's
in you.
pretty
It's in you.
hardcore.
It's pretty
Don't
I was
we
hard.
all
highly
kinda?
offended, bro. I was kidding.
I mean,
Hey, listen,
it's
I
shocking.
grinded mine down, man. I'm good.
He talked about that
good.
too. He talked about that too. He said the Philippines or there's a culture,
Yeah.
I think it's the Filipino culture that grinds their teeth
File 'em
down
down.
Yeah.
to remove
Oof.
the stigma or to remove the image of the Canaanite.
That's so funny.
But so that's kind of like, this is again stuff that just makes you think.
Again,
And-
back to what
and
you were
again,
saying.
we
We
don't
don't
know
know
anything.
nothing.
We don't know anything.
So I think when Brian was talking about that, he brought up this verse, and I think I found it. And it's Mark 16:15, and it says, and he said unto them, this is Jesus speaking, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. And so when you look up that word creature, it's the word katisis, and that word means basically it pretty much means anything created. So I think that's kind of like, so if there, whatever, let's just say what Gary Wayne was saying, 15% of the population, right? Whatever. I mean, every creature, I mean, I can see, hey, all right, well, maybe there's salvation for.
Yeah.
Right. And Brian was saying
I look
too,
at it this way because I think the way I look at it is that I get the fallen angels because they knowingly went against the word. Right. Nephilim were born into it regardless. And they're at least half human. Right. But again, that still doesn't necessarily, I mean, so if Nephilim are demonics, they're I just don't know how that works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, because then when is enough? Like when is whatever. And I can't believe that I just don't think that there's anything that's irredeemable except for possibly the fallen.
Interesting. Yeah.
At least that's where I go in my head. That's what my heart kind of says to me, is that that I feel like everything is redeemable except for maybe the fallen. Just because what they did was so heinous.
Yeah. Well, in their hearts too, they believe their belief is blasphemy of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Correct. And it's just too far. Too far.
Yeah. And they've
and I guess their offspring, that would depend on how they behaved.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Right. It's wild, man. It's reality is wild. I think we're exploring it, man. We're on a journey, all of us.
Hey, real quick,
sure.
I'm gonna send you a video real quick that pertains to just real quick. Hold on, give me 2 seconds.
Are you emailing it?
I thought about I'm gonna send it to how we did it last. I'm gonna send it to the Biblical Hitman TikTok. Ticketh of the Talketh. And this video, I've seen this video years ago and I looked a little bit more into it earlier today, and it seems to hold some merit as far as like the timing and like if it actually happened. So I just sent it to you just now. And my goodness, dude, this freaks me out. This video freaks me out, dude. Yes. There it is. And I'm sure you guys have seen this before too.
A mummified giant finger was discovered. The finger was nearly 14 inches long, so it would have belonged to someone between 15 and 16 feet tall. This discovery was only revealed in 2012. It was organic and, quote, humanoid. The finger looked like it had been cut off with anatomical precision. In some places, the finger was crumbling. It had leathery skin. It was ripped in places, and the skin was a few millimeters thick. Between the dried skin folds, there were remains of fungus. The nail on the finger was even loose. Did it belong to a giant ancient Egyptian mummy? In 1988, a mummified giant finger was discovered.
That's it.
Finger
Huh.
Have you guys seen that?
I haven't.
You've not seen that?
No,
Wow.
but that finger looks like a turd.
It looks like a turd. Looks like that.
Looks like the turd out on the front lawn right now from my dog, actually. It's all
I'm telling you
crispy and
what.
dry.
Yeah,
Your-
with the
your
fingernail and
dog-
stuff, though.
Your dog 14-inch turds, bud.
Turds,
Like
yeah.
that is
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
wild.
no,
That's wild.
I looked into it a little bit more, and I'm like, okay, what's the validity? And then you see better pictures of it, and it is freaky, dude.
That's weird, dude. That's weird, man.
A
Yeah,
15-inch index finger.
You know, and I do think a lot of our history, man, is manipulated and it's hidden and it's secured purposely. You know,
Yeah.
the population doesn't need to know about giants. We can't let that kind of information be disclosed, because then maybe the Bible is true, or maybe, you know,
Yeah.
it's telling the truth. All this kind of, you know what I'm saying? So it's psychological
Yeah.
warfare, dude.
I
Over
mean,
Right.
like
truth.
everything, like literally from like how the pyramids are built to like all the stuff,
Ah.
like these megalithic
I
structures.
just want to know
like,
the real story, man. You know?
Well, I know. And so one of the things, like, man, I'm just giving everything out here. They,
Run it.
So there's a guy, I don't know if you've heard of him or had him on. I'm just giving you guests for like the next 6 months.
Yeah.
There we go.
His name is Adam Ferris.
Okay.
Sounds familiar.
Adam Ferris. And he wrote, well, it's not a book. I mean, it's a book. He calls it a book. It's a book. It's a graphic novel, really, called Five Stones.
Okay.
And this is the story of David and Goliath, right? Just totally rethought and amazing. But he talks about, like, he was one of the people that brought it up to me, is that Solomon, I think it was Solomon. Actually, you know what? Before I make an ass out of myself. Talking about like the building of the temple, like you talk about demons or whatever, right? That were building the temple, but they had stone carriers.
What?
Yeah, so it brings up stone carriers. Hold on. I've got this on here somewhere. I've done the digging already.
It's ridiculous. I just tumbleweeds of dog hair. It just needs like old Western music to be playing in the background as a nice little tumbleweed of just dog
I thought
hair.
you had
flows
those
across.
hypoallergenic dogs that
No,
don't
it's
shed.
false advertisement.
shed?
False advertising.
You know, they cost way too much to not.
Okay.
They come
So
broken.
we had literal. So in the Old Testament, especially during King Solomon's reign, you had stone carriers referred to as laborers tasked with transporting stones for building projects, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in 1 Kings 5 through 15 or 5:15 mentions that Solomon had 70,000 stone carriers and 80,000 stone cutters working in the hills to construct this temple.
Wow.
But if you had, again, we're thinking about this, why would they call them stone carriers?
Oh, they're carrying stones, right? Big old
Right,
stones.
but I mean, some of these stones are like the west wall that
Oh,
they're
I see what
talking
you're
about, which is
saying.
the
I see what you're
retaining
saying.
Yeah.
wall,
They're
are
massive.
hundreds of tons.
Right.
So, I mean,
Right.
you know what I'm
We're
saying?
not.
Oh,
We're
it's
not.
super
We're
suspicious.
labeling the actual person as being the technology. Like we're usually
Right.
when you go, oh, these are the stone carriers. Yeah, it's a big sled that you put the stone on, and it helps you carry the
Right.
stone. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
they're referring to the people.
So they're referring to the actual entity,
Yeah.
Right.
whether it was
Right.
a demon
what-
or
right,
a
right.
Nephilim or a giant or whoever.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because he just calls them
Wow.
stone carriers. I guess he
just
didn't
calls
call.
them
He didn't label them.
70,000 stone carriers. Right.
Yeah, that's wild. There
So
there
Adam
was
brought this up to me, and he's also the one that showed, pretty definitive evidence that, yeah, a lot of David's mighty men were giants,
right.
lions, and dogs, and
Wow.
bears. Oh my.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so funny. You got that guy that went on Joe Rogan recently talking about how the pyramids were built. He wrote a 1,000-page book about exactly how they built it, I guess. And it's just right. He claims that they're just regular people, and he's like, they have the tools.
Right.
They're very savvy people, and it's just like, brother, like I have
Now,
a tough
I
time
would
lifting a
actually,
120 gallon.
but
water
here's
jar.
the thing. How did they move those stones? They didn't
Yeah.
use coconut trees
Right.
and roll them.
Right.
Now, I would be all for in agreement, right? If you could show me that they had like acoustic technology
I've
where
heard
they
this.
could
Yeah.
levitate, in essence, levitate these stones, because that's the only thing that makes sense
Mm.
to me.
Yeah.
And there's actually a movie that just came out. I just do too much of this.
Yeah.
There's a movie that just came out that has like, it just came out on Apple TV, and it's got this acoustic. It's a really good representation of what acoustic technology could do,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Well, there's experiments that have been done. I've seen them online, and it's pretty convincing that it's
You do it too with the sand, right? Like you
right.
can see the sand like vibrating or whatever, and it makes shapes. And are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yes, of course this is what they did.
Yeah, that is interesting.
In my brain, and I can't remember, but it's a new movie on Amazon or on Apple TV. That
bringing up movies too. The movie X-Men Apocalypse. It's all about the first ultimate mutant that was the most powerful one over all of the mutants.
right.
And really, the mutants are the Nephilim, but then there's like one that rules over all of them.
Right.
So I see the main evil guy in this movie as like the Antichrist figure or whatever, but he's the one that was responsible, and his kind of like divine counsel that he had of building the pyramids and like doing it with their telekinesis and all this
or
stuff.
whatever, right? Yeah. No, that's like, if you look at most of these, if you look at what's the word? The
ziggurats and
the pantheons across all the different religions. You can almost mark them up with Marvel characters.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Almost every single one of them.
Absolutely.
And
especially the Greek mythology stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and they all rhyme anyway. So like the Sumerians, the Greeks, even the Hindus, there's a correlative story there between all their pantheons and fallen angels,
right,
and Nephilim, right? So you just look at like, it's all spelled out there. Gary Wayne does a great job.
It's all connected, man. It's all connected.
Absolutely,
all of it.
So
that's one of the reasons why I believe that it's tough for me to believe that the Earth is only 6,000 years old, when
Yes.
you run down the timeline and you then talk about mythology, it just doesn't match with the
No.
timeline.
Well, I'm a firm believer that, I mean, time's relative, especially in other dimensions, right?
Interesting. Okay.
So at the end of the day, like to be like, oh, the Earth is only 6,000 years old. Well, maybe the current Earth, because I'm also I read a lot of Timothy Alberino and whatnot, and guys like that who, at the end of the day, I think Genesis is the rebirth of
Right.
Earth.
Right.
And I feel like even like people can't say, well, like the dinosaurs didn't exist. I mean, something existed.
Right. Dragon.
Right? But what's to say it didn't happen before we were even a thought in the brain? I mean, Timothy Alberino, if you've never read,
I think it's called Birthright or something.
Birthright. Yeah, if you've never read Birthright, you absolutely need to, because the asteroid belt in his thought is a whole nother planet called Rahab.
Wow.
And there's stories, myths behind all this stuff too.
Interesting. He's probably read, what's that book? Operation Planet Serpo or something. I don't know if you've ever come across it.
Another book that is actually crazy, and I think you guys should read it too, is the Apocalypse of, I don't even know how to say it. It's Vajnavalkya.
Oh, good luck, brother. That's the wrong
Revelations concerning the nature of humanity and the gods, and it literally talks about. It's basically like the like blending of like Atlantis and Anunnaki and stuff like that, and it's fascinating.
Yeah, it is, man. That whole concept too of Atlantis is very fascinating. I feel like it was what was the empire before the flood happened.
Yeah,
it's kind of like my take on it.
Yeah, it's obviously pre-Diluvian, right, and then pre-Adamic as well, because there's no timeline on this conflict or war in heaven. Like, how long did it rage? How long did it go on? How long ago did the fallen hit Earth on Mount Hermon or wherever you want it? You know what I mean? Like,
I think they say, I think it's alleged, or they say that it happened in the 6th or the 7th generation. I think it was in the days of Jared.
Yeah,
I believe.
So maybe,
I believe, but I can't remember.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah,
we don't know.
We think we know.
The Bible says what it says.
Yes,
for sure. And I'm not one that's going to oppose that. But I do not. I will not argue that there's probably things that were going on Earth way before Earth became Earth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the whole term in the beginning, we talked about it with our buddy. I'm forgetting his name.
What, Craig
Hunt. He talks about the word void.
Oh yeah.
And was without form and void, or
it was like darkness and destruction and all this kind of other kind of context behind like that in that time, which is like the destruction and then after that, you know what I'm trying to say? You get what I'm saying?
Rebirth.
Yeah, I think there's some parallels as well, like in the Enuma Elish. I could be wrong. In the Sumerian text or Babylonian, something like that. It's a part of like this creation myth. That's
absolutely,
but the Bible's got the right story. I mean, obviously, right? Like, but I'm just saying there's parallels in other creation myths to that concept.
Correct.
Yeah,
man.
It's weird, man. I love it, but I'm here to talk about it, man. But we are we're entering into that time where we're gonna start wrapping it up and stuff, man. Dude, I'm glad we got you on. It was about time, and
blast.
I'm excited to come on to your show, dude.
Yeah, you guys. When is that? Next week, right?
Yeah, next week.
That's
next
awesome.
week. Jesse, it's on the schedule, so you'll
Yeah, I
you'll see
see
it. You'll see it. But I'm excited for that, man. That's gonna be a lot of fun. I'll try and bring
Absolutely.
some fun stuff to talk about for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, dude.
Sure, we can figure it out.
Yeah, man. But I appreciate you, giving us your time and sharing your experience with us and all that, dude. We'll have to do it again. We'll have to do
For
it
sure.
again.
Yeah. Give it a little time, and sure there'll be all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
I know.
Up,
That's
right?
what I say to him all the time. Like,
Yeah.
dude, just it's like an open book test.
For sure.
Just never
Target
stops.
rich environment for sure, man.
But real quick, man, just if you could share with our audience where they can find your network and all that stuff.
Yeah, so the good place to start is Broadcasting Seeds, and you can find that anywhere, YouTube, everywhere where podcasts are. And I don't honestly have a website that's really functioning at this point. I've started it, whatever, but broadcastingseeds.com will take you somewhere. I just don't remember where exactly at this point. But the other one thing I wanted to bring up is a magazine that I'm like an editor for, and it's called Strange Knocks, and we talk about all kinds of stuff,
Cool.
from paranormal. It's all the high strangeness that we do, and I have links to that in my link tree, through Instagram, but go to Broadcasting Seeds on Instagram and you can find links to everything.
Awesome, dude. Awesome, man. So we go into another segment here in just a moment, and but before we separate and we head out, I wanted to just send us off in a little prayer and
Sounds great.
wrap it up. All right. So, Lord, we thank you for bringing us all together. Thank you for the stable internet. We understand the enemy is at hand, and we had a little hiccup earlier in the episode, but Lord, thank you for just allowing us to have this episode and bring us together and to create relationships. And it's all for your name, Lord. And we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, brother.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, guys.
Bennett,
We will talk soon.
Bennett Tanton, everybody. Go check them out.
Yay. Thank you.
All right. You know what time it is, folks. We're going to break it down.
What time it is?
You know what time it is. Dude, what's up with the internet connection when I was making sigil and emoji connections?
Creepy, dude.
Did you
Creepy.
see
Makes me
that?
want to look into that. The emoji.
It's
stuff,
wild because when you actually look at some of the emojis, they look oddly like connected to the actual sigils.
Really?
They look like some of them look the same. Yes, it's really
Ooh.
really weird. But Bennett, brother, thank you for coming on, man. It was a pleasure. Some crazy stories this man has.
Yeah, dude.
I'm gonna pray for you, brother. Continue to have deliverance over the oppression that he's been going through for a long time since his childhood with some crazy stuff, man. And it's not the only story of this, where people have these, some sort of these connect. I don't know what it is, right? But there's like this. Sometimes there's things that haunt you.
Yep. Spiritual attack. Yep. Absolutely.
I feel too, before my mom, accepted Christ as her savior and really gave her heart to the Lord, and because she was getting oppressed by ghost apparitions and all kinds of other stuff,
Really?
and I think some of the doorways that she was opening up to allow those things to happen were watching things like paranormal, ghost hunter shows and all this other kind of stuff. You just start to kind of put yourself into this setting where it tickles your curiosity and it brings in that seduction where you're like, I have to know more. I've got to dig deeper. But you're almost like giving over a leash to these things too, in order to gravitate towards, if you're putting energy in towards it, it's positive and negative.
There's something to it, dude. There's something to it. I've had a lot of paranormal experiences after watching fairly scary, disturbing, like demonic movies. And it's almost the loosh thing. I totally agree with that. It is creepy. dude,
to the
it's
max.
dude, it's so funny because I still to this day I'm like every now and then I'm like, dude, I want to watch a good scary movie, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
And it's just like Christian gets me every time. She's like, nope, not happening.
not happening.
I'm like,
Well, it's
you're
almost
probably
like
right.
it reminds me of back in the day, John Todd. He's like one of the first whistleblowers to like blow the lid on the 13 families and Illuminati and the music
Mm,
industry and how satanic it is. He was saying that before, and this was like in the 80s or 70s and stuff, maybe even before that, but that there's this record hall, that there's like this big conference room that before, and this is in like Los Angeles, Hollywood, right in the belly of the beast, but there's this room where that they would take records and they would do like rituals over it to usher in entities into giving some sort of more power to this music than it was initially created for. And
mm,
its purpose was to invoke you know entities into the public, make connections with people, probably induce sin and other crazier things, right? But um you know that's just another example of something that's normalized in our day, but it's
mhm.
practiced. It's really a cult ritual. We just don't really see it that way. So if we're
Right.
listening to certain musics, we don't know what's behind it. We don't know what's been ushered into it, connected to it,
Yep.
whatever.
Same with the movies.
Same
Same
thing
thing.
with the movies, and I've heard the same thing with like A24 films
Mm.
and some of these really evil films that come out, man. I mean, it's crazy. And
Jordan Peele's got a weird one coming out.
dude, what's so funny is like in the middle of these movies, especially the movie Hereditary, it's so bizarrely accurate and like realistic, and the whole movie is a ritual. So what's to
Wow.
say that that ritual just didn't get performed on people viewing it?
You watched that with Britt?
No, I did not. No, I watched it at work.
Oh yeah, you're
Yeah,
like, I wanna take a dive
it
at
was crazy.
this.
Well, we were all watching it. We were all disturbed.
Oh, okay.
It
Oh
was
yeah.
terrible. Yeah, but I'm saying, there might be things hidden behind, um, you know, the surface level, right?
Yeah.
So that's my point. I think there's evil things that do take place in the world like that.
Mm.
100%.
Maybe exactly that. Maybe a depiction of
Maybe
exactly what
exactly
happened.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Very, very creepy stuff, dude.
no,
We live in a weird world.
we do. We do. It was a fun episode, man. I enjoyed it. I like
Oh
talking
yeah.
about this stuff.
He's great, dude. He's great.
Broadcasting Seeds, baby. The
Uh-huh.
Broadcasting Seeds podcast. Go check them out, folks. If you've hung out with us till now, we appreciate you, man. Thank you for supporting the show. If you're new, if you are returning, you haven't done so and you want to support us, it helps to hit that subscribe button, like the show, share it with your friends. Me and Jesse were kind of talking about the other day, does it hurt to promote us or not? We weren't talking about that, but some channels, stray away from doing that, but I like it. It's a friendly reminder, man, and sometimes it helps to get people to support us, man. So I don't really,
It's
I don't mind it.
genuine. I think the
It's
most
genuine.
important part about that is it's genuine.
Yeah,
And we do appreciate all the support
we do.
we've been getting and gaining more followers, and it's just this snowball is building right now, and we appreciate everything, and we just want to provide a better production, a better episode, a better guest, a better conversation as much as we can over and over. And that's the only way to do this thing,
Yeah, no, exactly, man.
got to do it right.
And so shout out to our video supporters and shout out to our audio listeners as well, folks. The statistics are awesome and they're showing, man, and we wouldn't be anything without you folks, but we love that. If you want to support us on audio, you can check us out on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. We're on all three of those things. We're pretty much on everything. So while you're there, leave us a follow and a review, and it's deeply appreciated. But other than that, that's a wrap. That's a wrap. The party's over. We're going to see you folks next time.
See you.